The British Museum had stood for centuries as a temple of history, a place where time itself seemed to pause, where every corridor whispered stories of ancient civilizations and priceless art. On the night in question, the grand halls were silent, the echoes of footsteps long gone, and yet, in that stillness, something extraordinary and terrifying was about to occur. By morning, history itself would vanish, leaving a gap in the cultural heritage of the UK that no one could explain. The museum's lights were off, security systems were engaged, and guards made their rounds as usual, but despite all the precautions, a perfect crime unfolded. In the early hours, shadows moved with purpose through corridors lined with priceless artifacts. There was no forced entry, no audible alarm, and no sign of chaos. It was as if the walls themselves had been complicit, allowing a meticulous plan to succeed. Certain items, selected with incredible precision, disappeared. These were not random targets, they were treasures of immense value, both monetary and historical. The curators would later describe them with a mix of awe and horror, knowing that pieces that defined human civilization had been taken. The theft was not just a crime, it was an audacious act that challenged the very notion of security, leaving law enforcement baffled. Investigators arrived at the scene before dawn. The museum, normally bustling with tourists and scholars, was eerily quiet. Security footage revealed nothing unusual. There were no signs of struggle, no fingerprints, and no clues that could identify the perpetrators. Every lead seemed to vanish as quickly as the artifacts themselves. Experts examined the scene with painstaking care, analyzing display cases, alarm systems, and surveillance equipment. Yet, every potential thread ended in dead air. It was as though the thieves had anticipated every possible security measure, moving with precision that seemed almost impossible. The museum staff were left in disbelief. 4 months, they had been training for emergencies, preparing for fires, break-ins, and minor thefts, yet nothing in their experience could have prepared them for the scale and sophistication of this heist. The items stolen were not just valuable, they were irreplaceable. Ancient sculptures, priceless manuscripts, and artifacts that had survived millennia were gone. The cultural loss was incalculable, and the shockwave of the theft reverberated across the UK and the global art community. As news of the theft spread, theories began to emerge. Some suggested an inside job, pointing to the precision with which the thieves bypassed complex security systems. Others speculated about an international art ring, a sophisticated network capable of orchestrating thefts across continents. A few even whispered of something stranger, a crime so perfect it defied logical explanation. Each theory carried weight, but no evidence could confirm any of them. Police found themselves navigating a maze of possibilities with no clear direction. The suspects were elusive, and the trail was cold from the outset. Experts in forensic investigation, security analysis, and art recovery converged on the case. Every angle was explored. Security logs were scrutinized, forensic teams searched for microscopic traces of human presence, and international law enforcement agencies were alerted. Yet the thieves left no trace. It was as though the museum had been empty all along, waiting silently for someone to remove its treasures without a single witness. This level of planning and execution suggested years of preparation, insider knowledge, and an understanding of both human behavior and technology that was unprecedented. The theft's impact extended far beyond the museum walls. Museums and galleries across the UK re-evaluated their security protocols. Alarm systems were upgraded, guards retrained, and policies rewritten. The art world itself was shaken, with insurance premiums rising, exhibitions postponed, and priceless collections suddenly seen as potential targets. Scholars and historians mourned the loss, realizing that certain pieces of history, once stolen, could never truly be replaced. Every photograph, every record of the stolen items became a haunting reminder of absence, of what had been taken, and what could never return. In the months following the heist, the public became engrossed in speculation. Newspapers ran feature stories analyzing possible suspects, online forums buzzed with amateur detective theories, and social media exploded with discussions of motives, methods, and possible whereabouts of the stolen artifacts. Yet despite the worldwide attention, the truth remained hidden. Investigators faced mounting frustration as the trail went cold, with each clue dissolving into uncertainty. The sense of audacity, the near impossible precision, left experts struggling to comprehend how such a crime could be executed under the gaze of centuries of scrutiny. The night of the heist was a study in quiet precision. Every step taken by the perpetrators was deliberate, every motion calculated to avoid detection. The museum, usually a hub of security and observation, seemed almost unaware of the invisible threat weaving through its halls. Surveillance cameras recorded nothing but the empty corridors, yet somehow the most prized artifacts vanished. Those who would later reconstruct the timeline marveled at the audacity, a crime executed without confrontation, without alarms, without a single witness. Each stolen item was carefully chosen. There was a logic to the theft that only experts in art and history could fully appreciate. Ancient manuscripts, fragile sculptures, and priceless jewelry were taken with an almost reverential care, as if the thieves respected the value of what they carried while remaining utterly detached from the consequences. They left behind intact displays in other sections of the museum, giving the illusion that nothing had occurred. By the time the staff arrived for their morning routines, the reality was undeniable. Entire collections had disappeared overnight. Investigators combed the scene meticulously, examining display cases, pedestals, and alarms. Yet no fingerprints were recovered, no signs of forced entry appeared, and digital surveillance showed only shadows that seemed to vanish at critical moments. The heist had been executed with technical expertise that suggested months, if not years, of planning. Those involved had anticipated every possible countermeasure, exploiting even the most minor security gaps with surgical precision. It was a crime that confounded not only law enforcement but the very definition of possibility. Theories circulated almost immediately. Some experts believed it was the work of insiders, individuals with intimate knowledge of the museum's layout, security protocols, and staffing schedules. Others posited an international syndicate of art thieves, skilled in both the art of theft and the art of moving priceless items across borders without detection. Some whispered of an even stranger possibility, a carefully orchestrated distraction elsewhere, combined with sophisticated technology to disable alarms temporarily. Yet despite every conjecture, no solid evidence pointed to a suspect. The mystery deepened with each passing day. The aftermath of the theft was felt not only in the museum but across the art world. Curators and collectors re-evaluated security measures, ensuring that even the most obscure vulnerabilities were addressed. Insurance companies recalculated risk, and cultural institutions everywhere were forced to confront the reality that no treasure was truly safe. The psychological impact was profound. A sense of vulnerability replaced the assumed invulnerability of revered institutions. Historians mourned the irreplaceable loss of artifacts, recognizing that some pieces of human history, once removed, could never return. As the investigation unfolded, police focused on reconstructing every possible detail of the heist. They examined employee schedules, visitor logs, and maintenance records. Interviews with staff revealed no unusual behavior or suspicious encounters. Investigators explored the possibility of inside assistance, reviewing financial records and connections to international networks. Yet every avenue led to frustration. The thieves had left behind a trail designed to confound even the most diligent detectives. Every lead dissolved into ambiguity, every clue seemed to mock the very notion of justice. The public, meanwhile, became captivated by the story. News outlets reported extensively on the missing treasures, highlighting their historical significance and astronomical value. Social media forums exploded with speculation, ranging from amateur detective theories to wild conspiracies. People debated possible motives, discussed the technical prowess required, and even imagined the hidden locations where the artifacts might now reside. Yet despite the widespread attention, the truth remained elusive. It was as if the stolen items had disappeared not only from the museum but from reality itself. The museum responded with heightened vigilance. Security systems were upgraded, guards retrained, and access protocols tightened. Visitors were reassured, yet the shadow of the heist lingered. The memory of empty display cases haunted both staff and patrons alike, a reminder that even the most protected institutions were vulnerable to those with the will and skill to exploit them. Scholars documented every stolen item, photographing remnants and cataloging known information, attempting to preserve knowledge in the absence of the original artifacts. International authorities became involved as well, recognizing the potential for the stolen treasures to cross borders. Interpol and other agencies monitored black market activity, auction houses, and private collections. Alerts were issued to galleries, dealers, and collectors worldwide. Yet no confirmed sightings emerged. The artifacts had vanished into a world of secrecy, protected by layers of planning, deception, and perhaps luck. Months turned into years, and the heist became a case study in criminal ingenuity. Experts in criminology analyzed the operation, dissecting the methods used to bypass alarms, security cameras, and even human oversight. It was cited in academic papers, law enforcement training programs, and documentaries as an example of both audacity and precision. The event remained a benchmark for understanding the psychology of high-stakes theft, highlighting how a small number of determined individuals could challenge even the most robust security measures. Despite the investigative efforts, hope for resolution persisted. Law enforcement remained vigilant, periodically revisiting the case with fresh eyes, modern technology, and new forensic methods. Advances in digital surveillance, data analysis, and international collaboration offered renewed avenues for discovery. Yet each attempt to close the case met with silence. The thieves had designed their crime to withstand not only the initial investigation but the relentless scrutiny of decades. And still, the question lingered: where were the artifacts now? Had they been dispersed to secret collectors, hidden in private vaults, or lost in some obscure location? Could they have been destroyed, leaving only the memory of what was taken? Each theory carried a chilling possibility, but none provided closure. The museum, once a sanctuary of human achievement, remained marked by absence, its halls echoing with questions that might never be answered. As time passed, the heist became more than a crime, it became a legend. Not for the violence committed, but for the audacity, the precision, and the enduring mystery. It challenged assumptions about security, human behavior, and the lengths to which individuals would go to possess the extraordinary. Generations of investigators, curators, and enthusiasts have since pondered the possibilities, each contributing to a narrative that grows more compelling with every retelling. Years had passed since the audacious heist, yet the stolen artifacts remained elusive. Investigators continued to piece together every fragment of evidence, every shadow of a lead, but the truth remained hidden in plain sight. The crime had left behind not only an empty museum but also a trail of questions, speculation, and frustration that spanned continents. Who could have orchestrated such a precise and silent operation? And more importantly, where were the treasures now? Theories persisted. Some suggested an international network of criminals, highly specialized in the movement of illicit art, had taken the artifacts across borders, perhaps to private collections where their existence would never be publicly acknowledged. Others insisted on the possibility of insiders, museum employees or contractors who knew the routines, the blind spots, and the vulnerabilities. But even with modern technology and decades of investigation, no definitive answers emerged. The crime scene offered no clues, the security footage provided nothing, and every potential lead seemed designed to mislead. Law enforcement agencies revisited the case repeatedly. Interpol collaborated with Scotland Yard, monitoring black market activity and auction houses, hoping to intercept a stolen item before it disappeared into private hands. Art recovery specialists, forensic experts, and criminologists contributed to the search, analyzing patterns, suspect profiles, and historical precedents. Each insight revealed the extraordinary sophistication behind the heist. It was a case that demanded both analytical rigor and an understanding of human ambition and greed, yet every effort seemed to inch closer to dead ends. The global art community felt the heist profoundly. Museums tightened security, vaults were reinforced, and surveillance technology advanced dramatically. Insurance rates soared as institutions faced the stark realization that even the most secured artifacts could be vulnerable. Scholars catalogued every detail of the stolen pieces, creating exhaustive records to preserve their existence in academic memory. Yet the absence of the original items left a palpable void, a reminder that some losses are irreplaceable and timeless. Amid these professional efforts, public fascination continued to grow. News outlets, podcasts, and documentaries kept the story alive, while amateur sleuths and enthusiasts debated motives, suspects, and possible locations. Social media amplified theories, from international art rings to hidden vaults in secretive estates. Each new idea sparked debate, but none led to recovery. The heist had transcended its immediate impact, becoming a legend, a puzzle that captivated both professionals and the public alike. As investigators explored potential suspects, patterns began to emerge. Profiles of highly skilled criminals, capable of planning complex operations and moving with stealth, were matched against known networks. Investigators considered everything from former museum staff to international operatives who specialized in cultural thefts. Financial records, travel histories, and personal connections were analyzed, yet the puzzle remained unsolved. The sophistication of the crime suggested careful selection of participants, meticulous planning, and perhaps even a level of obsession with historical value that transcended monetary gain. Technology offered hope, as advancements in tracking, digital surveillance, and global data analysis provided new tools for investigators. Artificial intelligence systems combed through historical transaction data, auction records, and shipping logs for anomalies. Thermal imaging and satellite monitoring were applied retroactively to the locations under suspicion. Despite the promise of modern tools, the artifacts remained hidden, elusive, as if they were protected by a force of secrecy that spanned decades. The heist's impact extended beyond physical loss. Cultural institutions around the world began to question vulnerabilities previously considered negligible. Security consultants were brought in to assess systemic weaknesses, and new protocols were established for every museum handling high-value items. The psychological effect of the heist was immense. It shattered the perception of invulnerability and replaced it with a constant awareness of potential threats. The story of the stolen artifacts became a cautionary tale, emphasizing the need for vigilance, innovation, and relentless attention to detail. Meanwhile, families of the staff and museum visitors who had witnessed the aftermath struggled with their own feelings of helplessness. Employees who had been on duty that night remembered the eerie quiet and the shocking realization of loss. Visitors who had been expecting an evening of history suddenly found themselves in a place forever marked by absence. The emotional toll extended far beyond the missing items. It lingered in the collective memory of all who valued the museum as a beacon of knowledge and culture. Despite decades passing, the mystery of the heist remained unresolved. Investigators revisited old leads, interviewed new suspects, and applied the latest forensic techniques, yet every path seemed to close. Some clues led to dead ends, others to false hope, and a few hinted at vast networks operating just beyond the reach of justice. The audacity of the operation, the precision of execution, and the complete lack of resolution elevated the crime into legend. It was a reminder that even in the modern era, human ingenuity could challenge security, authority, and logic itself. The stolen artifacts, their fate unknown, became symbols of ambition, greed, and the fragility of cultural preservation. Some speculated that they were hidden in plain sight, perhaps displayed privately or stored safely in a hidden vault. Others imagined that they had been dispersed, scattered across countries, their provenance carefully erased to avoid detection. Every theory carried a mixture of intrigue and despair, highlighting both the allure of treasure and the frustration of impossibility. Yet even as the mystery persisted, hope endured. Law enforcement remained vigilant, ready to act on any new lead, and technology continued to evolve. Each discovery in forensic science, each breakthrough in digital investigation, renewed the possibility that one day, the artifacts could be recovered. Until then, the heist remained a testament to human ingenuity, a crime that defied the expectations of security, law enforcement, and history itself. The British Museum, now reinforced and vigilant, continues to welcome visitors, yet the memory of the stolen treasures hangs in the air. Curators, historians, and enthusiasts alike cannot help but imagine the paths the artifacts might have taken, the hands that now hold them, and the stories still untold. The case has become more than a heist. It is a narrative of human fascination, criminal brilliance, and the enduring power of mystery. In the end, The stolen artifacts are gone but not forgotten. They exist in memory, in records, and in the imagination of those who have followed the case over the decades. The heist challenges assumptions, inspires speculation, and forces a confrontation with the limits of security and human perception. Each unanswered question keeps the story alive, inviting everyone to consider what might have been, what could still be, and whether justice in any form will ever catch up to the audacity of that silent, perfect night.